You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, as you guys know, there was a hell of a lot of drama to start the NBA season due to, well, a massive gambling scandal in which the FBI, Cash Patel, all these components were involved. Adam Silver somewhere sitting in a corner, shaking and shivering in fear. Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, they're in a lot of trouble. And it was only a matter of time before people started turning a view in the direction of the National Football League. And why is that? Well, because so many of these leagues are fully in bed with these betting companies now. And this is very interesting because no doubt about it, when you read about this, there is a conflict of interest for the National Football League and for ESPN, because we know ESPN is taking NFL media, NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, and some other various things, right, involving NFL media. The NFL's been trying to offload that for years. Well, the NFL's receiving equity back in a form of, well, some kind of equity ownership in ESPN. There's only one problem. ESPN's got a betting platform. And so that causes a potential conflict of interest. Thursday's news regarding the latest and to date most consequential NBA gambling scandal has brought unprecedented focus to the various problems flowing from legalized, normalized, heavily monetized sports wagering. The biggest problem rarely, if ever, is discussed. Who is this? It's Florio. Craig Carton, whose gambling issues previously resulted in incarceration, recently expressed a valid concern regarding the NFL's looming acquisition of 10% equity stake in ESPN. Quote, ESPN needs to divest immediately from ESPN Bet. And here's why. Carton said Friday via Sean Keeley of AwfulAnnouncing.com, the NFL owns a piece of ESPN, meaning by default, they own a piece of the sports book. Yikes. That's a massive problem. That's a huge problem. Well, you can't have it both ways, because if the NFL benefits from you losing your wager, then they're incentivized to control the outcomes of games because it means more money in their pockets. Quote, meaning they have a financially vested interest now in you losing whatever wager you make on NFL games. Meaning it's more likely for someone to say, hey, if there's a gazillion dollars on Team X to cover, it's in our best interest that they don't cover. Uh-oh. Boy, it's a slippery slope now. Make sure the referees call the game a certain way. Now, I'm taking liberties there, of course, but that's the problem. When you want people to never question your integrity, you can't own a piece of a sports book, and they do. On the surface, Carton's concerns aren't technically accurate. ESPN does not own ESPN Bet. Penn Entertainment operates the entity. ESPN licenses its name to Penn. That said, ESPN received Penn stock options as part of the deal, allowing ESPN to acquire ownership of Penn. Also, the NFL does not own 10% of ESPN. That deal requires approval of the federal government. There's no guarantee of approval will ever be given, it's going to be given. I'd be shocked if it's not. It's currently possible, if not likely, that the ESPN bet arrangement will end before the NFL ESPN deal is approved, if it ever is. That said, Carton's concerns ring true for a different reason. NFL owners are currently allowed to own a piece of any company that operates a sports book. As the league told PFT in February 2024, an owner would be able to hold up to 5% in entities that generate revenue from sports betting operations. Wow. Provided the individual has no involvement in the management of the company, such as an officer or director or managerial role. In other words, independent of the league's looming 10% stake in ESPN, and in turn a piece of Penn Entertainment, NFL owners are permitted to separately and directly own a piece of the house. In theory, up to 5% of every, quote, house. Any of them, all of them. For every owner of every team. So in theory, they could own 5% of insert 7 different gambling companies here. For a total of, say, 35% ownership. When combined. 5%, like 5% ain't enough to raise eyebrows. And this is all about raising eyebrows. I mean, we're heading down the road where the integrity of sports is, I mean, it's been in question. The NFL's got a perception issue right now, I can tell you. From having this channel going back 3 years to the Cincinnati Bengals, Kansas City Chiefs, I believe it was the AFC Championship game, there is a large section of fans that believes the NFL has been rigged and they use the NFL referees to do it. The NBA gambling scandal did not help that. And here's the problem. We don't know which owners own how much of which companies that operate a sports book. Okay. We don't know because the league has declined to share that information. Of course they have. If, as it appears, the sports betting reckoning is the beginning, one of the first things Congress, the media, and or the general public should demand is to know is the percent of every sports book that each NFL owner holds. It's a fair question. It's a critical question. Within the zero-sum reality of NFL wins and losses, each owner has a direct interest in the performance of his and her team. Within the broader reality of sports betting, it's possible that every owner has an indirect interest in the outcome of wagers on specific games that tilt one way or another towards one team. If multiple owners hold 5% of, say, DraftKings, and if the action on any given game becomes skewed to the point that DraftKings financial interests point towards one of the teams winning the game and or covering the spread, the concerns expressed by Carton become valid. Wow. That's, oh boy. By the way, I've got no issues with sports betting whatsoever, but does it raise potential integrity issues involving said sport? Well, hell yeah, it does. Of course it does. I mean, I don't know. I've said something will eventually put a dent in the National Football League. I've brought this up before. There was a time when Major League Baseball far and away was the most popular sport there was. Well, it's not now. It's a regional game, ratings-wise. Yeah, I mean, the ratings have gotten better in certain aspects, and I think they were up a little bit this year, but it was far and away. It was like a baseball game got ratings like football games in the 80s. Football games now. Well, we know the National Football League destroys baseball now. So it can flip, by the way. I mean, NBA ratings a lot of times are higher than some baseball games. College football ratings are much higher. But the point is, something's going to come along that's going to put a chink in the armor of the National Football League, and I can't figure out what it's going to be yet. I thought there was a chance it was the Bad Bunny situation. But that's just led everybody to tune out at halftime and then come back for the game. Although that has led some people to say, when is it ever going to be enough that you walk away from being an NFL fan? Okay, that's a valid question too. It always bears watching. That's the reason I'm doing this video, is because there's so many calls that are questionable. And now, with replay assist from the Wizard of Oz that chimes in, and yeah, does it speed things up? Sure. But the wizard has determined that was not a pass interference call. Okay, I mean, are we sure the wizard said that? Who's the wizard? What's going on with the wizard, the one making the call from another play? I mean, you got to have the background information of all these different entities working together to make sure there's not any fuckery going on. There, I said it. Tomfoolery. Whoa. That's not every day you can pull a tomfoolery in a video. I just did it. The effery and the tomfoolery back to back. Wow. That's crazy. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Yeah. Roger Goodell better have his head on a swivel. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.